What did you feel whenever you got out of the pool?
Well, I had a lot of races I was happy with, and when I did, I was filled with joy because I knew that I had done well after training so hard and working so hard at becoming faster. I do have a story I'd like to tell you about one of my races.
Please do share your story.
When I was 22 years old, I went to the World University Games. I qualified by being one of the fastest college students in the country in the 200 breaststroke. And so I became part of the USA team in the 97 World University Games, which was in Sicily, Italy. Well, we were in Sicily for about a week before my race to acclimate ourselves to the time and the climate. And so during some of the time that I was there, I went into the Mediterranean Sea right there near our hotel, and I cut my foot on one of the rocks. It was sharp like coral, and I bled a little bit, but it started to heal. Unfortunately, my foot started to get infected, and a red line started to go up my leg that told the team doctor that I had a infection that was getting serious, and he said if that infection gets to your heart, you could die. So he immediately gave me very strong antibiotics, and that red line started to go away, but of course my foot was still hurting, and I was wearing flip-flops because we were on our way to the pool, and I didn't have to walk very far, just from the bus to the pool. But while I was walking back from the pool and my flip-flops were wet, I slipped on some stairs because I was being careful with my cut foot, and I sprained my other foot. So then I could barely walk because I had a cut on one foot and a sprain in my other foot. It wasn't my ankle that was sprained, it was actually my foot. And so then I had crutches that I started to use, and my doctor and coach asked me if I still wanted to swim, and I said there's no way. I came all the way to Sicily to swim for the United States and not swim. So the next day was my race, and even though I could not really push off the wall with my hurt foot, and I couldn't really jump very well into the water with my hurt foot, it didn't really hurt to swim breaststroke, so that was fortunate. So I didn't want to make a scene by having my crutches up at the starting block, so I left them at the side of the pool by the wall, and I hobbled over to the starting block for my race. And I decided that it didn't matter how much my feet hurt, especially my sprained foot. It didn't matter how much it hurt. I knew that I had trained for over a year to get to that race, and I didn't want to waste all that training just because my foot hurt. So I swam the race as hard as I could and put the pain behind me, and I saw a video of that race, and my turns, even though my foot hurt, my turns were still faster than the people around me. So I really did ignore the pain and fight through it. Then when I finished that race, I saw that I got third, which doesn't sound like a great thing, but it is a bronze medal, and I was only about a half a second slower than my fastest time ever, which was quite remarkable for someone who had a sprained foot and an infection on the other foot. So when I finished that race, realized I got bronze medal, I was so happy. I was just beaming, and they had an award ceremony, and they gave me flowers, and we stood on the podium. Unfortunately for the United States, a Japanese guy won first place, so they played the Japanese national anthem and flew his flag highest, and mine was third highest. But I was just so happy to be on the medal stand because there were college students there from all over the world that I just looked out among the crowd that was cheering and smiling, and the teammates that were happy with how I did, and I soaked up that experience so that I would remember it for the rest of my life.
Did this experience change you like a lot, or did it like shape you to make you greedy and want to get more titles or records?
I felt at that point that I had uh, gotten a bronze medal for the USA, that I had had my fair share um, victories, so to speak, and I did not feel that it was like super important to me to go to the Olympics because I already had kind of a miniature Olympics experience. And actually, when the next year, when a 17-year-old beat me, this was 1998. When a 17-year-old beat me, I realized, he probably really, really wants to go to the Olympics more than I do. I don't really care all that much. I've lived my dream and met my goals, and then some. I overachieved my goals. And so I stopped swimming so hard for the last 2 years before Olympic trials. And I went to Olympic trials, but I knew that I hadn't trained hard enough to win, and instead I got my master in business, which set me up for a career which I've had for the last 20 years.
What was the most fun you've had for training for your swimming?
The most fun I had in training was when I was swimming at BYU my junior and senior year. There was another young man there that was also a breaststroker, and his name was Dima Malinovsky, Dmitry Malinovsky. He was from Russia. He was the first Russian to come to the United States on a swimming scholarship, the very first after the Soviet Union fell. So he was a very fast breaststroker, and I had the goal every practice to beat him, but I also had fun, and here's the fun I had. When we were racing each other, especially if we got out of the pool to start off the blocks, I would pretend to have a Russian accent, and I would say, "Dima, I will crush your skull." I'd say things like that a Russian might say in a movie, and basically challenging him to a race. And every time I did something like that, I would be laughing, and he would be mad, and he would always beat me. So that was a really entertaining way to spur on the rivalry. My junior and senior year, I beat him again and again and again. I think he beat me in only one minor race out of all those races that we had. And but then the next year, after I had graduated and he was a senior, he broke one of my records. So he had the last laugh, I guess you could say.
Oh, that's funny. How long have you had your title for? Or how long will you think it will be until it's broken?
Well, you're saying title, and the only titles I won would be like the conference champion.
Yeah.
And that was just for a year. The very next year, somebody else becomes the conference champion. That only lasts a year. And I did that in 4 different races. The other way to look at a title would be a record.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
When I left BYU as a senior, I had 5 team records, 2 relays, and 3 individual events. The 2 relays and 2 of the individual events were broken within the next 2 years. They were all broken by people I swam with my senior year and the following couple of years. But there was one record that nobody broke for a long, long time. That was the 200-yard breaststroke. I had broken that record for the first time when I was a freshman at BYU. It originally was a 2:03, and as a freshman I went 2:02. Well, by the time I was a junior and a senior, I was going 1:56. So I dropped it another 6 seconds. And so at the time I was the 13th fastest breaststroker of all time for that event. All countries ever in the NCAA. And it lasted until yesterday. 21 and a half years later, finally a young man came along with the right talent and the right training and broke my record, and that actually happened last night.
Um, cool. What was the hardest time for you? Like, when was the time when you were struggling to swim, like you wanted to give up?
I never really wanted to give up, like long term, but there were times that I really wondered if it was all worth it and maybe I should give up. I guess I wondered if I should give up. I guess that is the right way to say it. The hardest I ever was training was, I would say, the first 6 months after my mission. And the reason that was so hard is because when I was a missionary for 2 years, I did a little bit of exercises, a little bit of lifting weights, a little bit of running, but not nearly enough to stay in swimming shape. So when I got back, I started swimming hard, and I felt so terrible after some of the practices that we had, so exhausted. I remember one time I was driving and I was turning left and I was too tired to even turn my head to see if a car was coming. I thought I did, but I wasn't sure. I was literally like half out of it, and I crashed right into a car that was turning left in front of me. And I didn't even see it. It was a big van, and I totally didn't even see it. That just tells you how tired I was. When I got to BYU after the summer break was over, I remember being so tired that I had to, when I was filling up my lunch tray, I was so tired I had to sit it down and rest because my arms literally were too tired to carry my lunch or my dinner on that tray. And I would fall asleep in every single class. I went 6 full weeks without staying awake through an entire class. That means in organic chemistry, I fell asleep. In my genetics class, I fell asleep. All of my classes, I literally fell asleep, and I was just so tired. I would have a tutor that would be tutoring me and one other person. I couldn't even stay awake. The tutor ended up teaching the other student who was staying awake, and there I was sleeping, sitting up. So the only way that you can understand how tired I was is to go through something like what I went through, where I was just physically not capable of doing what I was forcing my body to do. And it started to get easier after about 6 months, but those first 6 months were just a nightmare.
Why is swimming your favorite sport?
I swim, and I love swimming mostly because I'm good at it. I would enjoy basketball if I was good at that, but I'm not. I would enjoy long distance running if I was good at that, but I'm not. I would enjoy triathlons if I was good at running and cycling, but I'm very average or below average on those things. For whatever reason, I'm just really good at swimming, and it's not that I enjoy all the work per se. I do enjoy it, but I could enjoy any sport I was good at. I'm convinced of that.
What got you motivated to do swimming when you were a child?
I always had a lot of energy, and when I was in the water, I felt like I could, exert all my energy, and people were happy with me. Whereas if I was at home exerting all my energy, what I was doing was jumping on the couches, seeing how high on the wall I could climb, just making messes, running around, yelling, wrestling with my siblings. All that was discouraged. But when I was in the pool, the coaches were happy when I tried my hardest and used all my energy. So I really enjoyed it. In fact, I enjoyed it so much that I would come home, lie down on the living room floor, and pretend to swim on dry land. I would kick my legs and pull my arms and slowly crawl myself along the floor just because I enjoyed swimming so much.
What was the most exhilarating or like what was a like the greatest tapering you've ever done?
Greatest tapering I've ever done. I would say it was a little less than a year after my mission when I was just talking about how tired I was for the first 6 months. I swam fast with my first taper and got a lifetime best. I went 158. It still had not gone 156 though. Then a few weeks after that, which was conference, a few weeks after that was NCAA's, nationals. And I swam another 158 low in the morning, and it was not fast enough to be top 8. In college national championships, the top 8 make the finals, and the next 8, number 9 through 16, make consolation finals. So I was 9th in the morning, which meant I was in consolation finals, and that was a real disappointing thing because I was so close to making top 8, which is more points. You get to swim with the fastest swimmers in the world, and I was basically in the second group. But that afternoon, I got to thinking, and my coach was talking to me about it as well. Instead of just moping around and being disappointed that I got 9th instead of 8th, I should be happy that I have a second swim, that I'm in the middle of the pool, and there's just no reason not to go out and swim my best. It was the last swim of the season. We would take a few weeks rest after we were done, so we might as well just give it 110%. And I did. I beat everyone in that race by several seconds. I went my 156 for the first time ever. And it was fast enough that it was almost a pool record. And the people in the top 8 all looked at my time and were shocked that I had swum so fast. And they all said, oh, I at least have to try to beat him. And only 4 did. The other 4 were slower than me. I still got 9th place because you cannot get better than 9th if you're in the consolation final. But I was very pleased with how much time I dropped just by getting mentally prepared to swim my absolute best, which I apparently had not done that morning. My job that morning was just be top 8, and I didn't do it. My job that night was to just get out of the pool, having left everything I had in the pool, and I did that. And like I said, only 4 people in the whole country beat me. And at the end, there was 2 Olympians that were there, and they both walked up to me and said what a good job I had done, and I got my picture taken with both of them.
How important is swimming to you?
Swimming's important to me now because partly it gives me some of my identity. I describe myself as a husband and a father and a swimmer, and then I talk about my job and my church and my relationship with other people. But swimming is definitely one of the things that defines me because I do it a lot. Some of my friends I only know through swimming. It keeps me in shape. I think it keeps me strong and healthy. It keeps me from being fat, which I do tend to get chubby if I stop swimming. And it gives me some goals to achieve. For example, right now I have a goal of breaking a national age group record for men 45 to 49. I have 2 seconds to drop, and I think I can do it if I keep training hard. And that's what motivates me right now. It gives me something exciting to wake up to every day. And when things aren't going right at work, or my wife is upset at me, or the kids don't want to play with me, at least I can have something else to kind of lean on to be entertaining for me and fulfilling for me.
Okay, that's it.